What up? My name's Praveen, aka Braille, and you're checking out the very last Braillesounds. If you stick around till the end, I'll let you know why this is my last video, but I did want to go out with a bang and feature one of my favorite new modules, Tetrachords. It's replaced my Symphonian. If any of you have been following along, that thing was the heart of my system. So this thing is the heart of my system now. And I'd love to show you all how it's powering all my chords, all my bass, all my melodies, but also go over some of the changes in the system, sort of as a documentation for myself, since I'm gonna be moving, rebuilding the studio, but also just so I can show you all where I'm at right now and the system that's basically responsible for all the releases that'll be coming out in 2025 and probably 26 as well. All right, let's get started. Let's take a look at the Tetrachords. This bad boy right here, we're gonna start a new song. Each one of these is a note. In Tetrachords lingo, each group of notes that you're picking is a pattern. We've got 4 tracks over here. The top one is actually going MIDI out into Ableton. What that lets me do is pipe those chords out to my Moog Muse, but also we've got some new guys in the chords case. I took out the psych, that intro psych, still have it, still love it, but I've replaced the analog flavor with my Moog Muse. The Tetrachords lets me power it through Ableton and also chain MIDI out to this Neuzit Instruments Warp and this RYK Modular Vector Wave. The Warp is a sort of mix of wavetable and additive synthesis. It actually is resynthesizing the wavetables in real time as far as I understand. It's really, really deep as any non-eurorack hardware synth I've ever had, but it also has enough hands-on controls and immediacy so that you can just get jamming real quick. The Vector Wave, it's a more standard FM synth. It's got some vector synthesis as well, but I don't think that's compatible with polyphony, so I'm usually using just the FM. One really interesting thing about the Warp is it actually has this mode where you load galaxies. This is sort of like this set of wavetables that you're loading that are going to be resynthesized. But if you don't have any new ones that you want to load, it's got an AI model in there. I'm not sure how AI it really is, but it does generate, based on the model's training data, new galaxies, which again, I think are sets of wavetables. So I've got MIDI coming out, channel 1 on the Tetrachords. You'll see here we've got 2 options, ARP and chord. For each channel, you can pick chord or ARP. Chord lets you pick multiple notes and they're all going to be sent out simultaneously, either through the different 4 CV outs you got on the hardware itself, or like I said, MIDI. If you use MIDI, you're kind of opening yourself up to have 3 extra outputs you wouldn't otherwise. So what do I use those for? Well, the second channel here is for my bass. I can put my bass notes in there. The last 2, we're not going to be using this session. We've got enough on our plate as it is, but that's for our melodies. And I've got a melody case over to the left, and it's got my Collide 4, some other fun stuff in there that I use to generate melodies. But we're not here for melodies. We're here for chords. So let's get started. I'm going to turn off the effects. I like to start with just the raw synth sound to make sure we're not clipping too bad. So I'm going to switch over to chord mode and let's add some notes. Now that we got some notes down, we can actually change the root by pushing in and turning. Let's go to a G. Now that it says 1, that's actually the root of the chord that you're setting up, as far as I understand. I trigger them using this verbose mini horse. You see when I push the button, Tetrachords is lighting up. When I let go, it's not lighting up. And that's because I'm sending gates in. Once we get to recording our chord sequence, we can loop them using good old Shakmat's Bishop's Miscellany. This thing is the core of my system alongside Tetrachords. Can't wait to get that Mark II, but for now, let's start creating our chord progression. We're just setting up the initial pattern that we're then gonna copy throughout the 8 steps. And once we have that copied, we can go from each step and change the chord setup, and eventually we can sequence that using the mini horse and looping that sequence using the Bishop's Miscellany. So let's make this chord a little bit more interesting. Just by turning the knob, you're changing the root note of the chord, so you can start playing around. You can also change the quality of the chord by moving this knob here. So let's make this major chord minor. Let's keep this one minor, but we're going to change some of the notes. So instead of your standard 7th, we're going to move some things around. Let's get a kick going so we got something to make this progression to. Let's bring in the reverb. Starlab with the size being modulated like usual. Already we got a vibe. Let's add some drums. We got some drums going on the key step right here. They were already programmed in from before. Let's add some hi-hats, nothing fancy. Courtesy of 2HP Hat. Some ultra perk in there. If we take a look down here, we've actually got a new sequencer. This is Stolper Beats. It lets us have a second drum pattern going on so we can switch using the Confundo Funkitis between one or the other. It's got a little fader at the bottom. Still got the cuisine. Vibe. So we're sequencing the bass line actually using the Bastel Neo Trinity. It's actually what I use for trigger sequencing the bass and the chords, and we've got 2 different chord channels, so yeah, I love this thing. I've got 2 of them. But to give us some variety, we've got 2 options. Like the drums having Stolper Beats and Steppy. On the chords and bass side, we've got Bastel Neo Trinity, but also this bad boy right here by SynthFox, amazing module creator. This is the shift chord generator. Basically, it's like a shift register Turing machine type thing with also CV out. You get triggers, CV. I really wanted to go back to the sort of joy I had when I started all of this with After Later Audio's Alan, basically a Turing machine. So this lets me switch between like really focused, direct trigger patterns and some loop random. So the bass is actually Steady State Fate Zephyr. It's amazing. So compact, tons of stuff. You can get a lot of FM craziness if you're into that. Let's open it up a bit. So let's get some breaks in, and we've got 2 sets of breaks here. It's about to get fun. We've got our sample drum, which we used to use, still being sequenced by the Verbose Voltage Multistage. So the CV's being sequenced with the multistage, but the triggers are being sequenced with Shakmat's Four Bricks Rooks. But also, we've got this new guy, Ectocore by Toadstool Tech and Infinite Digits. Shout out to Isaac. You guys did an amazing job. Basically gives you breaks on lock. You can load up your own samples. We're sending envelopes every step of the voltage multistage to the MMF-1S, which is filtering the Ectocore. Gives us a bit of a tighter amen, but you'll hear when I open it up. That's some rides. Forgot to mention that guy, 2 HP tape stop. It's a whole lot of fun. And it's still being multi-tracked, so basically I can get the tape stop, but also I can go back in later and I can adjust the whole phase and everything. So you still get that level of control, but like I'm trying to do all the time, you still get the immediacy and the feel of doing it all live in the moment. And I feel like that kind of adds something to the final recording. See what the Stolper Beats has got going on. So let's get into sequencing some chord stabs instead of having them be sustained the whole time. Let's beat the drums so we can dial in some delay here. finally, much like we've got the voltage multi-stage sequencing the CV of the break steps from the sample drum, we've got our 4MS Catalyst sequencer, which we can sequence the amens with. That was fun, and yeah, a bit sentimental. This is gonna be the last video that I make for an indefinite amount of time. I just want to say thanks to everyone who's been out there listening, watching, liking, and subscribing. It's been a great experience, and it's been awesome to hear from some of you out there who've reached out and told me that a video's inspired you, or taught you something, or even just made you laugh at my dumb ass. So it's been a blast. This whole experiment from the start was basically trying to find a way to replace the sort of vapid feeling social media posting that is required around releases with something that felt more natural and more honest. I'm about to have my first kid and move. Between the two of those things, I had to make a pretty big choice. Do I want to make videos or do I want to make music? I started this whole experiment thinking that I could just do what I do already in the studio when I'm writing and record it. The truth is that the second I turn on these cameras, it changes everything. This place, this studio, and whatever the next studio is that I have to rebuild this in, it is my happy place. And really, it's a private space where I don't want to feel like I can't take risks because I'm afraid that it's gonna sound like shit and you're gonna hear it. So what I found was that I can't just do what I do in here. It just doesn't work. That isn't always so much fun for you all to watch in these like short, condensed, beautifully edited videos. So I'm about to have a lot less time than I did basically every moment I'm in here. Whenever that is in the future, I want to be in the zone and I want to be writing, and I don't want the distraction of the cameras and things like that. You know, you might not see me on here, but you'll be hearing plenty of me, and feel free to catch up on Instagram, join us on the Discord. I've got a single coming out in May on Hypercolor Records, hopefully some stuff on Hot Flush for the rest of the year. And beyond that, you know what? I think I might even self-release an album or two. I've got so much music in the backlog. For the first time, I think it might be time to just put it out there myself. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking and subscribing. And until next time, whenever that might be, thanks for watching.